All right, in today's video, what we're going to do is show you how to do ASTM packaging for any government contract that you might have been awarded. Now, there are two different types of packaging styles that your contract might actually need. One, which is ASTM packaging, which is what we're going to go over today. And then the second one is military standard packaging. Now, military standard packaging is a little bit more complex, so there are a lot more nuances that we will have to go over. But for today's video, we're solely going to focus on ASTM packaging. All right, so now going into this, how do we do ASTM packaging? First and foremost, you want to look at your contract and look at each and every one of the CLINs and determine if it says ASTM packaging or if it needs military standard packaging. If it does need ASTM packaging, this tutorial is going to show you exactly from beginning to end what you need to do in order to fulfill that packaging requirement. Now, what we have here today is we have a few different things on the table, so I'll go over what this is. So right here, this is going to be our tape dispenser that we are going to be using. So we'll go over this. This is called an impulse sealer, so we'll go over that. We'll also need an intermediary box. I'll explain what that is. And we need an exterior container as well too. So we'll go over all of this. Also, what we need is we need our parts. So these parts have already been bagged and tagged earlier, but I'm going to show you in today's video with the items that we have here. All right. Also, what we need is we need to make sure that the labels have all of the information based on MIL Standard 129. So we will have another video on how to complete a MIL Standard 129 label, but these ones have already been pre-printed for both the unit container and the interior container. All right. Now, with an ASTM packaging requirement, what we need to do is complete it in a commercial style packaging. And what I mean by that is all we need to do is take a poly mill bag. So these bags that I'm showing you right here, these are 4x4 poly mill bags. Now, poly mill bags, 4x4 is 4 inches by 4 inches, so it's a square. But then they also have a thickness to them. So I'll pull this out. Now, these ones are relatively thick. These are 4 mil thickness. There's 2 mil, 6 mil. I prefer the 4 mil, just seem a little bit more sturdy when you're putting the part in. Also, when you seal it, it just has a lot better seal. All right. So what you're going to do for ASTM packaging is you're going to take your poly mill bag, like this one right here. You're going to take, you're going to take the label that you created, peel off the label. So I peeled off the label, and then I'm going to attach the label to the bottom, closer, not exactly in the middle, but closer to the bottom of the poly mill bag, so then it's easily readable, right? The reason why I don't want to put it too high or in the middle is because I'm going to use the sealer to make sure it has a perfect seal and it doesn't cover over what the label is. Now, the label also has all the information on the contract, the NSN number, your cage code, the part number, how many are in it, and so forth, right? So all the information can be found on this label, and we'll make another video on MIL Standard 129 for the labels. So now that I have the unit container done, I have the label on that, I'm going to take the part. Now, inside of your commercial, or ASTM packaging, you'll have an item that'll say packaging QUP, and it'll typically say 001. It might say 025, 005, 100. What that means, QUP, whatever that is, and the number, is exactly how many of the items are you going to be placing in the bag. So in this case, this is a QUP1, which means I'm taking one piece and placing it in the bag and then sealing it. That's it. If this was QUP005, I would take 5 pieces in total. So here you got 1, 2, 3, 4, plus the other one, and I would put in 5, right? But in this case, all this is QUP001, so I'm placing one item inside of the bag. Once that's done, what I want to do is I want to use my impulse sealer to now seal the bag. Now, there are different types of sealers that you can use. We'll go over those in future videos, but this is an impulse sealer, so you're doing it by hand. But if you got 10,000, 20,000 pieces, it might be better to have a continuous band sealer. So we'll go over that eventually. But in this case, for this tutorial, I'm just going to show you this. I'm going to now seal the bag. Make it a little higher. Seal it. Okay. Peel it off. Now what happens is this bag is sealed, meaning that the item is not going to fall out, right? So now this is a completed unit container. We have the poly mill bag, we have the label, plus we have, since it's QUP001, we have one item inside of the bag, right? So now what I've done, and I'll show you here, is I've done this a ton of times over all of this. Now, with the ASTM packaging, what you're going to do is take all of the unit containers that you have completed and you want to put it into an intermediary box. So this intermediary box is an ASTM box. This ASTM box that you have right here is the box that we're going to use to place the items inside. Now, these parts are relatively light, and there are certain requirements to how many items you can place inside of the box. This intermediary box cannot be more than 40 pounds, nor can you have more than 100 items, right? So in this case, since these items are relatively light, I can place 100 inside of this box, and it's still going to be less than 40 pounds. Let's just say that each of these items was 20 pounds. If that's the case, I can only put 2 inside of the box. The intermediary box can weigh no more than 40 pounds, but it could have no more than 100 pieces. So with this, I'm going to place 100 of these items inside of the box. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Typically, I wouldn't do a hand count. We have our sealer that does the counting for us. But when we're putting them inside of the box, we want to make sure that they're put in nice and neat. Now, this isn't a requirement, but I would highly suggest that you have the labels facing out, just because it looks a lot better when the person is opening it, right? You don't want to have it just stuffed in here where it's all upside down or crinkled. We just try to keep these as simple and nice as we possibly can. All right, so now that I have just completed that, again, all of the labels are facing upward. I put them in stacks of 5 typically, and then we have now the box of all 100. I'm not sure if you can see that right there, but there are 100 inside of this box. Now this box, since the part is relatively light, is about 3 pounds, so that is fine. So now that I have 100 inside of here, this intermediary container is almost complete. Only thing that I want to do now is make sure that I do not leave any extra space inside of the box. So typically what I would do in this case is I would take some, and just doing this, have it right here, have craft paper. So this craft paper right here, I would place it inside of the box, right? Because I don't want the parts moving around. Just like if I'm going to ship, books to a cousin or another family member and I send it via FedEx, I don't want it to be shifting inside of the package, right? So I'm putting in craft paper so it's not moving. And now I'm closing the box, right? Now, I've already started closing the box and I've already placed my packaging tape on the outside. Now, what I also want to do is make sure that the top is similar to that on the bottom. So I don't want them crossing different ways. I want them all in unison. So in this case, what I'm going to do is use my tape and I'm going to place the tape on top of the box. This, I want to make sure it's sealed properly. Right. So I usually put 3 pieces of tape, make sure it's down there, and now all the items, the 100 pieces, are inside of this intermediary box. Now, if you're the person that the end user of this item and you have a box, you need to make sure that you know what's inside of the box. So not only does the unit container itself have a label, but the interior box has to have a label as well too. That label, I've already created as well too, needs to go on the top right corner of the intermediary box. Now what it's telling me is all the information on the unit containers, but it's also telling me how many pieces are inside of this box. So the only thing that's really changing on the label on the outside of the intermediary box is saying how many pieces are inside this box. Since there's 100, it'll say 100 pieces are inside of here. After that, the intermediary box is done. Now, once we have the intermediary box, now we need to move into the exterior box. Now here's the exterior box on a package that we have, that we are planning on shipping out. And I'll go over exactly what all of that is. But what we've done here, let me just take it out, is we have completed these boxes already. As you can see, intermediary box, it's inside, doesn't shift around too much, it's closed. And then there's a set of 4 inside of here to fulfill or fill all of the space inside of here. So let me do this. Pretty sure you can see it there. So there's 4 boxes there inside of this exterior box. Now, I'm doing the same thing I did with my unit containers, or excuse me, my intermediary containers. I want to do with the exterior containers. So I'm taking craft paper, placing all the craft paper inside. This. So it's inside. And now I'm going to seal up this box. And that would be an exterior container. Now for the exterior of, the outside of an exterior container, what we want to do is there's certain paperwork that we need to place inside of this box. What we want to be able to do is we want to put in the paperwork that you would complete in VSM, so Victory Sierra Mike. So through VSM, they're going to say there's certain documents that you need to say, hey, this is the information that's inside of this box. You would place this on the inside of the box. But also what they're going to do, the government with VSM is going to give you these labels that you want to place on the outside of the exterior box. It's going to be one which is a government label and a FedEx or UPS label. In this case, it's a FedEx label. The FedEx label for an exterior box needs to go into the top right corner, just like this, like that. And the government label that you would print through VSM needs to go just to the left of that. Excuse me. Be much better if I was facing it, but it still works. And we would have the FedEx label and then the government label that's right there. Also, you see this other little label that's right here. This is an RFID. So an RFID label, we'll talk about the exterior containers and what needs to be placed on it in a future video, but you also need to have an RFID label as well, okay? Once we have all of this, the paperwork's inside, we have our FedEx label, government label, and the RFID label. All we would do then is close this up, and we have completed our box for ASTM packaging. Now, my name is Tristan Thomas with Men Sourcing. We do a lot of government contracting work ourselves, but we also offer training to other companies that are looking to do it themselves, whether you're still trying to win your first award, or maybe you're trying to look for more, or possibly maybe you're just looking to outsource your packaging. We do all of that in-house here, and we would be willing to help. Okay, so again, when it comes to ASTM packaging, there are a few things that you need to do. It is fairly simple. Things that I do want to remind you are, one, you need to have poly mill bags. Secondly, you need to know exactly how many items need to go into one poly mill bag. So if it's QUP001, we would place one in, and so forth. Also, you need to have a label on that unit container, right? You then would either put in 100 in a box, or at least as long as it's less than 40 pounds. Once you have this intermediary box all done, intermediary box needs to have its own label, then it's closed up and placed into an exterior box. Fill up the exterior box, and then you would put the FedEx or UPS label here, government label here, and the RFID. Government label and the FedEx label would be printed through VSM. Okay? If you have any questions, please leave in the comments below. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to our channel because we are here to help you become better and more efficient at government contracting. Thank you, and you have a good day.